I did put the call out for this show. The response was just fantastic. People came up with wonderful ideas. The reasons that they had the ideas were wonderful.
It's the only television I watch, so it's an influence.
I've always been encouraged by all of the shows that WDSE has had on different countries and makes our life more interesting.
I watch practically everything on PBS all the time. It's my main thing. But I hearken back to the Teletubbies because they're such a strong image visually. It's such an innocent show. I mean, the whole thing was just so wonderfully innocent, and the way it showed little documentaries and then about children's lives all over the world. I thought it was a fascinating show. And plus I had the idea of putting Downton Abbey on the stomach of a Teletubby to bring it, kind of just mix and mash. But my first memory of watching a PBS program was Mary Martin's Peter Pan, so she's on there.
I love Mr. Rogers, everything about him. I watched the show as PBS was beginning. I really like the land of make-believe. I've been an artist in all different kinds of media, but I like puppetry because it combines so many different parts, like sculpture and painting, and even work with fabric and figuring out the rigging, how to get a puppeteer to carry it. So there's also the element of movement. He looked like such a conservative person, you didn't really imagine him playing like that. I mean, he played piano, but yeah, there was a really playful element to the puppets.
I started painting chairs back in 1996. I was an art teacher and I decided to do it as a project, and something clicked for me. So now I paint about 30 or more chairs a year, and the chair is my canvas. There was a show called The Open Mind that really struck a chord with me. So I started doing research on it because it is the longest show series on public television. It started in 1956. That's why I decided to do that. I had just received some white roses and I was going to paint them, and I thought, well, how could I tie it in? And I thought, well, there's many gardening shows on PBS, and I started doing research, and I learned that the rose is the queen of the garden. So that's why I call my piece the Queen of the Garden.
I'm a great fan of the Great British Baking Show, as well as a lot of the other cooking and baking shows on PBS. And when I heard that it was an anniversary for WDSE, WRPT, I thought, wow, it'd be great to bake a cake. It's a beautiful chocolate ganache with vanilla layered cake. It's just, and with chocolate icing, it's just delicious. It was delicious. It's gone now. I love the cross over of all of the programming on PBS, both the local productions and then the productions that just PBS carries all across the nation.
I had 4 prints, 4 linoleum relief prints in progress, and I thought all 4 of them would fit the format for what we do between Almanac North and between Nova and all the wonderful shows. I like outdoors, nature, water, landscape. I love the between shows action shots of the bridge and the boats coming through and the ducks, and so I kind of use that as my basis.
It's a piece I did in Florence at the Uffizi in Florence. We were waiting outside and I started it and then finished it in my studio. I've just traveled with WDSE, so that's what's inspired me. And I've traveled all over the world. So it's a great encouragement to see the world and learn about other people. It's a mime who's part of the landscape. And as a landscape artist, I like to put people in, but I like them to be part of the landscape of wherever they are, in Italy or in France or in the US.
I submitted 3 paintings of wildlife. They are acrylic paintings on a canvas of elephants. I like portraying them in kind of a portrait of them, capture the essence of them, and I like really thinking about how they're similar to humans. I really loved watching the show Nature that could really provide that for me. Sparked my curiosity, answer questions, leave me with new questions. From a pretty young age, I was really intrigued with elephants.
I submitted 2 pieces, an image of a rooster from a carousel in Guaymas, Mexico. other piece is also something that is a little bit of a stretch, but it relates to what I see all the time on whatever programs I watch. I think that's the way it is. It's like I see things, I collect them in my brain, I collect images, sometimes I take pictures of things, and so it becomes, I think, a slice of what's in my head. And I collage them in a program like Photoshop and join them and print them on watercolor paper. So it's the surface is watercolor paper. After I print them, I work back in them with pastels and ink, and sometimes I add some other pieces of paper to that surface.
It's called Moment of Impact, and it's the shooting of Lee Harvey Oswald on television, actually, in 1963. He was the gunman who, of course, took out JFK. It was a very troubling time in our history, but that was kind of the kickoff for it, you know. And so this is a symbolic piece of that weekend. Public television has produced so many great historical pieces. Nova has covered the JFK assassination, and others have covered it too on public TV.
Well, I bought the guitar and I knew it was going to be a canvas for an artistic, musical figure. I think it was in the spring of 2018. My husband and I were watching PBS during a pledge drive, and they had the concert for George. So hours and hours of listening and really absorbing, I think, the spirit of George Harrison as I was painting that, and fell in love with his music all over again. There are some paisleys that are teardrop shapes, and that's meant to represent While My Guitar Gently Weeps. And then on the back is another portrait of George Harrison, and there's the sun with the Om symbol, which is actually on a lot of his album covers after the Beatle years. And the Om symbol is the sound of the universe. And so that was important.
They're almost all different, like what people chose to do. So I just couldn't be more thrilled by the whole thing, and it's been really a lot of fun. So I hope people do enjoy it.